Magandang hapon po. Dear friends, the fourth round of formal talks between the government of the Philippines and the National Democratic Front of the Philippines has come to an end. The peace negotiations have been intense, challenging, and at times difficult this week. But then again, if it was easy, it would have been solved years ago. It is about painful compromises on both sides to make the end goal possible. This peace process is about the future of the Philippines, the road to a peaceful, prosperous Philippines with social justice for all. And we believe, as third-party facilitators, that the only way to resolve this conflict is through dialogue and political processes. And it is in this context, yet again, that I would like to congratulate, commend, and praise the parties. I have said it before, and I will say it again. They have illustrated genuine commitment to this peace process by working together to find solutions to their differences, and by persevering, believing, and not giving up. So, hands up. And here are the main achievements of this round. On the agenda item of social and economic reforms, the parties have firmed up the agreement on free distribution of land as the basic principle of genuine land reform. Another significant step forward was the signing of the agreement on an interim joint ceasefire that will take effect upon the approval and signing of the ground rules. The parties have furthermore agreed to meetings in Manila between this round and the next of thematic bilateral teams under the umbrella of social and economic reforms and of the ceasefire committees. And the next round of talks is scheduled to take place from 27th of May to 1st of June. And finally, before we proceed to statements and signing, I would like to reiterate Norway's commitment to this peace process. As long as the parties so wish, we will be by their side on this long, windy, and bumpy road to peace. Thank you. So now we will proceed to the statement, closing statement of the Chief Political Consultant of the NDF, that's right, Mr. Jose Maria Siso.
Thank you for giving me the additional space, or you can take your turn in response to my speech. Her Excellency Elisabeth Slåttum, Special Envoy to the Philippine Peace Process, the Honorable Jesus Torresa, the Office of the Presidential Advisor on the peace process, Honorable Silvestre Bello III, Chairman of the GRP negotiating panel, dear compatriots in the panels and entire delegations of the GRP and the NDF, distinguished guests and friends. The fourth round of formal talks has come to a successful conclusion. As the NDF Chief Political Consultant, I congratulate both the GRP and NDF panels and their respective delegations. I thank the Royal Norwegian Government, especially the Special Envoy and her staff, for having steadily and efficiently facilitated the round. The reciprocal working committees on social and economic reforms have exchanged their respective comparative color-coded matrices, identifying the contentious provisions and those that are acceptable in principle in the NDF and GRP drafts, in order to accelerate the process of concluding a comprehensive agreement on social and economic reforms of the SED. The RWCs on SAR identified the contentious provisions in the NDF and GRP drafts under agrarian reform and rural development, clustered them into 9 major topics, and have held initial discussions regarding these. Consequently, the RWCs on SER agreed to form and convene bilateral teams composed of 3 members each and supervised by RWC SER members to work on the sections on the ARRD and National Industrialization and Economic Development, or NIED. The bilateral teams are scheduled to hold work meetings in Metro Manila or elsewhere as may be mutually agreed upon in the Philippines. They have agreed on a progression of work meetings involving discussions and common drafting. They have required themselves to submit reports to the RWCs on SER 1 week before the 5th round of formal talks. And if I may do some a bit more of pushing, I propose that the RWCs and bilateral teams to start drafting the executive orders and the legislative bills to be annexed to CASER and aimed at realizing the social and economic reforms required by CASER. In this connection, research is to be accelerated on what is to be done by the public and Filipino private sectors in cooperation to achieve agrarian reform and rural development and national industrialization and economic development. The genuine agrarian reform bill should be taken into account in making a new land reform law. The priority industries to be established in order to lay the industrial foundation of the Philippine economy should be listed out in consultation with the industrial experts and prospective Filipino investors. In the forthcoming round, the RWCs on SER shall discuss and work on the remaining items under the Agrarian Reform and Rural Development Part 4, National Industrialization and Economic Development, Part 5, Environmental Protection, Rehabilitation and Compensation, Part 6, and the outputs of the bilateral teams. After devoting so much time to the subject of ceasefire, the GRP and NDF agreed to formulate an interim joint ceasefire agreement that will boost trust and confidence in the GRP and NDF peace negotiations. They have agreed to direct their respective ceasefire committees to meet even in between formal talks to discuss, formulate, and finalize the guidelines and ground rules for the implementation of the agreement. The prospective ceasefire guidelines and ground rules shall govern the presence of armed units and elements of both parties in local communities, the creation of buffer zones, the definition of prohibited, hostile, and provocative acts. A ceasefire monitoring and verification mechanism is provided for to oversee the ceasefire's implementation and handle complaints and alleged violations. The interim joint ceasefire agreement shall be signed immediately after the signing of the comprehensive agreement on social and economic reforms. Matters concerning a single governmental authority and taxation shall be properly discussed in forging the comprehensive agreement on political and constitutional reforms. Such matters can be finally resolved by the GRP and NDF co-founding the Federal Republic of the Philippines. Thus, the NDFP will not be capitulating to a pre-existing government, but will assume responsibilities in the new government. The interim joint ceasefire agreement shall be valid and effective until a permanent ceasefire or truce is forged as part of the comprehensive agreement on end of hostilities and disposition of forces, or otherwise terminated by any of the two parties for any reason we cannot foresee now. The ceasefire agreement is necessary and of high importance, but far more important and decisive in realizing a just and lasting peace is the adoption and implementation of basic social, economic, and political reforms that are needed and demanded by the people. We look forward to the 5th round of formal talks with high hopes. We all expect that before the forthcoming round, a great deal of work has been accomplished by bilateral work meetings under the RWCs on SER and by the ceasefire committees of the GRP and NDFP. We also expect the reciprocal working groups on the comprehensive agreement on Political and Constitutional Reforms to work in preparation for participation in the 5th round. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now give the floor to Secretary Dureza. I didn't say Jesus this time.
You failed to call me Jesus this time. Your Excellencies and friends and fellow Filipinos who are all here and all our guests. What Ambassador Elisabeth had said, that we have ended today, the 4th round, actually is the beginning of more work that we will do. We have just agreed on framework agreements, but the difficult part would be how to look at the specific details, how to come up with the guidelines, how to come up with the mechanisms that will make our bilateral ceasefire and our work on the CASER really workable in actuality. I think that is the biggest challenge. The situation today is that we have come up with landmark decisions here. However, I would like to make it very clear, as far as the bilateral ceasefire agreement that we have forged here, there's still a lot of work that will have to be done by both sides. We don't have a ceasefire in place right now, to make it very clear. But I think as we work towards coming up with the guidelines and the details, we are confident that both sides, in spite of the fact that there is no ceasefire in place, will work together in seeing to it that there is an enabling environment that would move us closer to what we want to achieve in this country, which is just and lasting peace. So there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of reason to rejoice over what we have done over the last 5 days. There's a lot of reason to thank the Norwegian government for their facilitation. But let me manage everyone's expectation. There's still a lot of work that both sides will do, and there's a lot of work for both sides to win, of course, the support of what we always refer to as the bigger table, the Filipino people itself. So on behalf of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, who is closely monitoring what we're doing, and who is in fact our very active playing coach in the Philippine team, he has expressed his gratitude to the Royal Norwegian government for the support, and he looks forward to closer work with this NDFP, and of course with all those who are with us in this work towards peace in the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will now proceed with the signing of the joint statement of the 4th round of talks between the government of the Philippines and the National Democratic Front of the Philippines.
7 pages.
I don't want to sign it.